The dust hadn't even settled when she stumbled into the sunlight, breathless, shaking, and certain that if she looked back, she would see the one man she feared more than the darkness itself. Her heart hammered so violently that she barely heard the roar of motorcycles or the shouts of men nearby. All she knew was the sound of boots pounding behind her, his boots, her ex, the ghost she had tried so hard to outrun. And in that desperate, wild moment of panic, she collided with the broad chest of a man whose reputation alone could silence a bar full of outlaws. His vest read angels, but his eyes, stormy and sharp, held something she didn't expect. Not danger, not judgment, but an unspoken promise. You're safe now. If you believe in kindness, second chances, or the courage it takes to walk away from fear, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It helps more than you know. She didn't even realize she was shaking until the stranger's arms wrapped firmly around her, grounding her like an anchor in a hurricane. His touch was warm, steady, and protective in a way that made her eyes sting. Behind her, the growl of her ex's voice cut through the air, filled with accusation and rage, and the men standing outside the rundown building shifted uncomfortably, unsure how far things would go. This was not a town where people got involved. This was a place where folks looked away, where they whispered instead of stood up. But the man holding her didn't flinch, didn't step back, didn't let her face the storm alone. She had come to this forgotten little town for a fresh start, a chance to rebuild what her ex had spent years tearing down. But trauma had a way of traveling with you, and she learned quickly that run didn't mean freedom, not when the one you ran from refused to let go. For weeks, she had lived in constant tension, always glancing over her shoulder, always waiting. And when she finally saw him again, rage burning in his eyes as he approached, she panicked, fled toward. The only sound she heard, the revving of engines, like a warning and a lifeline all at once. The man who caught her smelled of leather, gasoline, and something faintly like pine. Everything about him looked rough, hardened by a life she couldn't imagine surviving. His arms were marked with ink and scars, his jaw set with a fierce protectiveness she didn't yet understand. But in that moment, he felt like the safest place she'd known in years. Her ex shouted her name again, stalking forward with the confidence of someone used to scaring people into submission. Only this time, he stopped short when he saw exactly who she had run into. The Hell Angel didn't speak. He didn't need to. He simply shifted his stance, placing himself between her trembling body. The man approaching with fists clenched and fury leaking from every breath. The rest of the bikers fell silent, watching. Something in the air changed, charged with tension, but also with the unspoken understanding that a line had been drawn. Her ex had chased her across 2 state lines, convinced that control equaled love. But he had never imagined his grip could be broken by a stranger who didn't even know her name. As she clung to the leather cut on his back, she felt the slow, steady rise of his chest, as if he was silently telling her to breathe with him, to match his strength until she found her own again. For the first time in years, she felt a flicker of defiance inside her, small, fragile, but real. Her ex spat curses, blaming her, calling her dramatic, insisting she come with him. Rage twisted his face into something almost unrecognizable. And still the angel shielded her, unmoving, unwavering. When he spoke, his voice was low and steady, like distant thunder. She didn't remember the exact words, her nerves too frayed, her mind too flooded, but she remembered the tone. It was the tone of someone who didn't bluff. Someone who had seen real monsters and had no interest in tolerating lesser ones. Her ex, suddenly aware he was outnumbered and outmatched, tried to regain his arrogance, but his voice cracked. When he stepped forward again, dust spraying beneath his boots, the angel only stood taller. What happened next wasn't violent. There were no punches thrown, no chaos, no brawl like she feared. Instead, it was a silence thick, heavy, and suffocating that fell over the entire town square. Her ex looked at the men gathered around, their eyes cold, protective, and utterly unafraid. For the first time, he realized he had no power here, no control, no audience willing to let him get away with what he'd always done. His confidence faltered, his steps faltered, and in the weight of that silence, he turned and walked away, dust trailing behind him like a bitter shadow finally breaking loose. The whole town watched him leave, no one said a word. When he disappeared from sight, she collapsed forward, all the tension she'd held for so long crashing down at once. Her breath came in choked waves, and the angel lowered them both to the ground gently, as if she were something fragile but cherished. She didn't know how long she cried, only that he stayed with her, patient and unbothered by the vulnerability soaking into his jacket. The other bikers dispersed quietly, giving them space but staying close enough to keep watch. a silent circle of protection she never expected to find. In the hours that followed, as the golden light of evening stretched across the dusty street, she found herself sitting beside the angel, his presence steady and reassuring. He didn't ask questions or demand explanations. He simply existed beside her, giving her the one thing she had been denied for years: safety without conditions. In the days that followed, the townspeople whispered about what had happened. Some had known her ex was trouble. Some had suspected she needed help, but didn't know how to offer it. But everyone agreed on one thing: the moment she ran into that biker's arms, everything changed. Not because of violence or vengeance, but because someone finally stood between her and the fear that had haunted her life. Healing wasn't immediate, it wasn't simple, but she learned to breathe again, to sleep without flinching, to trust in small, fragile doses. And the angel, whose life was full of road dust and rough edges, somehow became the gentlest part of her world. He taught her that strength wasn't about fighting, it was about standing still, unmovable, when someone needed protection the most. And as she rebuilt her life piece by piece, she realized that sometimes the family you find in the unlikeliest place is the one that saves you, not by swooping in like a hero, but by simply holding you up when your feet can't. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, subscribe, and share it so others can feel the strength and hope it carries. Before the ending, tell me in the comments, what part of the story moved you the most? In the end, the town would never forget the day a terrified woman ran into the arms of a man the world called dangerous, only to discover he had the heart of a guardian. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't running anymore. She was standing, healing, and finally free.